Hey friends, we are going to have a quick little face-to-face chat about what seeds we can start right now and into February in our indoor grow station so that we can get a jump start on our spring and summer garden. I'm going to give you a blanket statement before we start. The majority of the plants that I am telling you about are going to be planted into our garden about 4 to 6 weeks before our last average frost. So they can tolerate cool weather. They can tolerate cold weather. They can do frost. They can do a light freeze. They can even do a couple inches of snow without causing a significant amount of damage. So it is time to get our hands in the dirt and get some of these seeds going in our indoor grow stations. The very first type of seeds that get started in my grow station every year are alliums. Alliums are onion plants, so chives or leeks or onions. They take a very long time to grow and turn into a plant that is big enough to put out into the garden. So you could have started these even in January and they would be doing just fine. February is probably the latest that you would like to plant these. If you're not in a similar area to mine, I'm also going to tell you weeks to your last frost. So for me, February is 11 to 8 weeks before my last average frost. So that's kind of the time range that we're looking for. You really want to start your allium plants no later than 10 weeks before your average last frost to give them enough time to really mature once they're out into the garden. One tip on allium seeds is they are not planted the same way as most other types of seeds that you're used to planting. Most seeds, you do 1 to 2 seeds per little container or spot in your planter. These are different. They're gonna be planted in what you would call a multi-sow fashion. So you're gonna get yourself a larger pot, not just a tiny little seed cell, but a larger pot, and you are gonna fill that with dirt and get it moist and wet, tamp it down really nicely, and then you're gonna densely sow onion seed on there. So I like to do about 50 seeds. Obviously I'm not counting those out, but I sprinkle a good amount of seeds on there, tamp it down, get it wet. I just kind of rub them a little bit. I don't make an effort to get them underneath the soil at all. And then that is the perfect way to grow them. They will stay in that pot until it's time to transplant them out into the garden. Onion roots are really thick and wiry, and they have no problem being separated once it's time to plant. Last week when we planted together, we started those garlic chives. But as I was going through my seeds today, I decided I'm also going to try some of these Dawn Giant leeks that I purchased from Burpee last year. I have never grown leeks before. Honestly, I don't think I've ever eaten leeks before, but it's something that I really wanted to try and put into the garden. I would love to can up some leek and potato soup, so this is something new for me. The next family of plants that you're gonna put in your garden this time of the year are your brassicas. Brassicas are plants like broccoli, cauliflower, kale, cabbage, Brussels sprouts, those types of things. Collards, they, like I said, can handle that cooler weather, and they actually thrive in that cooler weather. Once it gets hot in your garden, these plants are either gonna bolt or they are gonna be very bitter. So it's important to get them started early enough that they can mature while it's still under around 75 degrees. I'm gonna go ahead and get these started tonight because I like them to be about 6 weeks old before I put them in my garden. And I like them to go in the garden between 4 to 6 weeks before my average last frost. Collards are gonna be something new for my garden this year. I have had a bite of collards, but I have never purchased them or prepared them or had, tasted them more than just a bite. So I'm really looking forward to those. And of course, I love my broccoli and cauliflower. They grow amazingly well and they're very easy to preserve. Another plant that is perfect to start inside early like this in February is lettuce. Now, if you want to grow just a leaf lettuce, you do not need to start it inside yet. But if you're wanting to grow heads like a romaine lettuce, like this mini red romaine that I'm gonna be growing, then you do wanna go ahead and get it started so it has time to build and form that head once it's outside before the heat sets in. Especially if you live somewhere like me here in Southwest Missouri, we never know what our springs are gonna be like. Sometimes we'll have a decent spring. We did last year. It was an excellent year for all of my brassicas, but sometimes we literally have 2 weeks between winter and then the summer heat. And so stuff like lettuce and brassicas, they just turn really bitter and gross quickly. So it's important to start stuff like this soon. Now, if you are just wanting something like a leaf lettuce, I personally just like to direct sow that into my garden about 4 weeks before my average last frost. Another seed that is perfect to start in February in your grow station is celery. Celery takes a really long time to grow, and so it's awesome to get a jump start on it. You can also direct sow this according to the package, but honestly, I have never tried that, and I don't think that it would work very well in my area anyways, because I wasn't harvesting celery until like the end of July, beginning of August last year, so I can't imagine how much later it would be if I direct sowed this outside. Okay, so like I said, the blanket statement, all of those things can be transplanted out before your average last frost. This next thing that we're going to talk about, although it is started in February and takes a long time to be able to get out into the garden, you need to wait until you have warm temperatures. I honestly don't even plant these until about 3 weeks after my average last frost, but these are hot peppers. Any of your super hots, so cayennes, habaneros, sugar rush peach are the ones that I am going with. This red cherry pepper, those types of things, peppers that really burn, they take a long time to mature and to produce. So starting them indoors about 10 to 12 weeks before your average last frost is the perfect timing. Now I'll be starting my sweet pepper seeds in February as well, but they don't need quite as long. So they're not gonna be started until the very end of February for me. Those would be like my snacking peppers and my bell peppers, my banana peppers, things that are more mild or sweet. They don't need quite as long. As far as food goes, that's all that I'm gonna be starting in February, but I'm also gonna be starting some flowers in my grow station. I have talked to you before about my snapdragons. They were gorgeous last year, but they were short. And from all of my research I have found is that I did not get them out early enough. So I'm gonna be starting my snapdragon seeds tonight so I can get them into my garden like 6 to 8 weeks before my average last frost is my goal. I'm hoping that they're gonna be ready in time. I really want tall, beautiful snapdragons. I'm going in with a few different varieties. I have the rose snapdragon, orange wonder, and just a tall mix. So surely out of all of those three, I can get some really pretty snapdragons for my bouquets. I'm also going to be starting some purple coneflower echinacea. This is a perennial in my zone, and any perennial plant that you are growing takes a little bit longer to really create that root system. That is what is going to keep this plant alive when the winter months come. And so we're going to be starting that this month as well. And then also the Russian status, we grew this last year, is a beautiful filler for my vases. And something new for me are these Canterbury Bells mix. They have like cottage garden vibes, and I think they're going to be gorgeous thrown into my garden, but also thrown into my vases. Now, my garden is primarily food. The purpose of it is to feed my family, but what draws me to the garden is beautiful things. And so I love to add all different kinds of flowers to my garden, just here and there, sprinkled throughout. I have some perennials, I have some yarrow out there. I did have the prettiest Alaskan daisies, and somehow they're supposed to be a perennial down to like a zone 3, but our winter last year killed them, unfortunately. And so I don't know, I just really love pops of beautiful flowers. I love to be able to create bouquets and bring them inside my home as well. Guys, I think that's it. I think that is all of the seeds that I'm going to be planting in February. March is definitely my heavier month for planting. That is when I'm going to be doing all of my tomatoes. And if you know my garden, you know I grow a ton. And so make sure and just continue on this journey with me. If you are watching this video, I bet you are really missing your summer garden. So I'm going to put a link right here to a video of one of my summer garden tours so you can walk through my garden and get just a little glimpse of what is coming. Thank you so much for being here with me, and until I see you next time, may God bless.